some 10 years ago, I had this dream to move somewhere, rent something in the south of Spain. It was the first time when I could make some money. I was making this TVP magazine, everything for free. I was working with the Venus Project and stuff. So after 8 months of working for free, I said maybe I should make a donation campaign to get some money for my work to be able to continue the work. The magazine was free, of course, everything was free. I always do free stuff. So anyway, I got enough money to work for a year, and I said I can afford now to pay rent and move away from living with my parents and go somewhere and rent something and be able to focus on this project. I was looking at the map in Spain because I was like, oh, now I have money to rent something, and I found this somewhere in the south of Spain is this strip of land. See this very thin one, and it intrigued me. I was like, wow, what is this? Like it's a sea inside and sea outside in this strip of land. This very narrow land is like, wow, what's up with this? I was just curious, And back then, I was searching to see, about the rents, how much it costs, and so forth. And interestingly enough, this is an area where the rents are a lot cheaper than the rest of Spain, at least the rest of coastal Spain. Maybe because it's they build a lot of new apartments here. There are lots of very, very big buildings here, and it was the place where I could find cheap rents, new apartments, and a lot of available ones for renting, because Spain is insane. You cannot find anything to rent for long term on the coastline, because everything is for tourists. 10 days ago, I was here with the motorhome with Sasha. Arriving in La Manga motorhome parking, which is kind of full, but it's a nice place. We parked exactly here at the edge, at the end of this strip, because you cannot go with a motorhome or with a car, whatever, from top. You have to go from the bottom, and you can, drive on top here. These are like 17 kilometers. It's quite a long strip of land. And here on top, I don't know, I just like this idea of like being at the end of the world, at the end of this thing. So it's nothing here. No one can come from here. I don't know, maybe I don't like people, and I just want to be somewhere where it's like hard to access, or I don't know. But we parked here and we stayed for several days with the motorhome. Driving there, you don't even realize you are on this narrow strip of land, because you are surrounded by buildings, very tall buildings, and it looks like any town, basically. But at the end there, it was quite nice. Actually, it was nicer than I expected, and it was an interesting experience for me, because before I wanted to move there, I was looking on Google Maps and on Street View I went on all of those streets to like see how what is around, and I was searching to see where is the hospital, where is the dentist, where is this, where is that, because I really wanted to move there. I contacted a bunch of people to see if I can go and see some places there. So I was very, very determined to move there. So it was very interesting for me to, and now after 10 years, be there. I didn't get to rent anything there because it was complicated, whatever. That's a nice. This is the canal. You can take the boat. I don't know, isn't it too shallow for boats to come here?
Maybe just the small boats. Okay.
People have boats there, you know. Okay, Sasha, this is for jumping. This is a high level jumping. So it made me think about rentals or owning versus motorhome, because now I'm with the motorhome there. So and it was much better than renting something there because it was much cheaper and so forth. And I wanted to make a video about how it compares to have this kind of lifestyle versus what most normal people have, because most normal people rent a place or buy a place. So this is going to be focused on Spain because this is where my experience is in terms of like renting or traveling with the motorhome and so forth. So keep that in mind. And I was thinking, should I compare it with owning a place versus renting a place? You know, this motorhome life. You know, if you're honestly like, I never thought I'm going to buy a motorhome because it's insanely expensive for me. I, I don't make any money really. I make a few hundreds of euros a month through donations. And when both me and Sasha wanted to buy a motorhome, we were like, oh, how can we even get the money to buy a motorhome? We used to live with rent, so even that was so difficult for us. So we thought, how can we save so much money to buy a motorhome and then live in a motorhome? So somehow we managed it. I moved back with my parents. Both of us moved back with my parents. Sasha worked in diving. I was just doing my volunteer work and the Trump projects and so forth. So I was getting some money from donations. So eventually we managed to buy a motorhome. And I'm saying this because we will never have been able to buy an apartment, for example. A motorhome is like 20,000 euros, maybe like a 20-year-old motorhome, decent motorhome. An apartment, 100,000, 200,000, is just no way you can buy how can you have in mind to buy an apartment? So I'm saying that it's more reasonable to compare in terms of possibilities, to compare buying a motorhome and living in a motorhome versus renting something in Spain, at least. I'll try to compare the three anyway, but just keep that in mind. You know, I'll try to compare motorhome versus rent versus owning. Let's think about costs. A motorhome costs maybe around 20,000 euros. That's how much we paid for our motorhome. It's a 20-year-old motorhome. If you want to buy a new motorhome, like that is, you know, 10, 5, 10 years older, then the prices jump like that 40,000, 60,000. It's crazy. So it's reasonable to think that for 20,000 euros, you'll get a around 20-year-old motorhome that is in good condition. So that's how much we paid. Actually, it was 21,000 euros. And we put maybe between 2 and 4,000 euros into the motorhome to do like the power system and everything like that. Before I will compare the costs, let's keep in mind that we shouldn't take into account food, for example, or gas or internet, because these are the same. Doesn't matter you live in a motorhome or you live in an apartment or a house. In a motorhome, the recurring costs are, well, fuel. Of course, you pay fuel, and this depends how far you want to travel. For us, it's around 150 to 200 euros a month, and that is around 1,000 or more kilometers. That's huge. That's like going from the north of Spain to the south of Spain in a month. You can visit so many places, so it's reasonable to spend that much amount of money and not more. Sometimes we spend less, and I want to spend less actually on fuel because it's no point to rush with a motorhome like that. Insurance and car inspections are like around 60 euros a month. We pay yearly or every 6 months for the car inspection. We have to pay for laundry around 30 euros, and parking maybe 15 euros a month. Usually we park in like 99% of the time we park in free places, but sometimes we pay. In total, with the motorhome, we spend around 300 euros a month. So it was an initial cost of 21,000 plus around 3,000 euros put in the motorhome, and then 300 euros a month. If you own an apartment in Spain, so you have to buy an apartment or a house, I do not think you can find something that's cheaper than 60,000 euros, and that's in a maybe small village somewhere. Where we lived in Estartit, in the north of Spain, on the coastline, you couldn't find cheaper than 90,000 euros. And in La Manga, this strip of land where I wanted to move, if I wanted to buy an apartment, or me and Sasha, it will cost, as I looked recently, at least 150,000 euros for a very small apartment. And I think there are some taxes associated with that. After you buy the apartment, you have to pay like 10% of that in taxes or something. Anyway, it adds up. So it's so much money I can't even comprehend. I will never be able to buy an apartment. So the initial cost for an apartment, massive. Of course, then you may have to like do some kind of repairs to there and furniture and whatnot. And you have bills. When you have a place to stay, you have electricity. That doesn't cost anything in a motorhome because you have solar, and then when you drive, you also charge your batteries. Water, again, doesn't cost you anything in a motorhome. Or garbage tax sometimes for the trash or the rubbish. I think when we lived in Estartit, in the north of Spain, we were paying around 100 euros on average a month on electricity, maybe around 30 on water and 15 on this garbage tax, whatever you call it. So let's say 150 euros a month for the bills. But the thing is that if you own an apartment somewhere, it's very likely that if you live there, you also need a car, because it's not that easy to go from one place to another. Like in that place, La Manga, that strip of land, you can't even go from the top there where we parked the motorhome to the end of it by walking, because I mean, you can go, but it's 17 kilometers. It takes you 20 minutes, even with the car, 30 minutes maybe. If you have a place like this, maybe you also have a car. And if you have a car, it adds up to the cost for like maybe 40 euros a month, insurance and car inspection. So also garage. If you own an apartment, realistically, you still have to pay around 150 to maybe 200 euros in recurring payments. So it's cheaper. It's true. It's cheaper than the motorhome. Not much more so, but also the initial costs are 3 to 5 times or more bigger than buying a motorhome. So keep that in mind. And now I think more realistically, it will be fair to compare this motorhome life with renting something in Spain. If we were to go now to La Manga, let's say, yeah, finally, let's go to La Manga and rent something. I think the cheapest that I found was 450 euros. And even then, it's so difficult because Spain is so touristic. If you have to look at the details of this 450 euros, because many times the owners say it's 450 euros except the high season, like July, August, September, maybe. And in those months, they jump the price for the rent at around 1,500 euros. So it's insane. You have to really look. I've seen this in La Manga so many times. So let's suppose we could rent something for 400 euros. That is kind of the low end of rents in Spain, and that will be not even in a big city. That will be somewhere, not even in La Manga, probably. Think about it, it's 400 or so euros a month on top of those bills that are the same as if you were to own, right, the place, the electricity, the water, the rubbish tax, maybe car insurance, maybe car, like a garage for a car and so forth. Instead of paying 300 euros a month like we pay now for the motorhome, we would pay at least 500, 600, maybe 700 euros a month just for the bills, just in recurring payments. So as you can see, it will be enormously expensive. Like now when we went to La Manga with the motorhome, we could pay like 100 euros a month and live in La Manga with the motorhome, basically, instead of paying 600 euros a month in La Manga. So yeah, these are the costs of motorhome versus owning a place versus renting a place. It's cheaper when you own, but not that much more cheaper than living in a motorhome. However, when you own something, then you also have to pay a shit ton of money to own that thing. So for me, the motorhome gives me some freedom from the society. Is the most reasonable way for me to live, realistically, because now that we made the effort to buy the motorhome, the monthly costs are really low. Are really low. If I were to stay with rent somewhere in La Manga now, how could I pay the rent? Like only the rent itself in La Manga is very likely is as much as I pay for everything in the motorhome, including food and fuel and gas and insurance and everything. Because alone when I stay in the motorhome, I pay maybe 600 euros a month for everything, including food and everything. So yeah, the motorhome gives me this freedom because I feel like, I don't have many bills. Even if I have very little money, I can be like, okay, I'm not going to drive that much, so I don't have to spend on fuel. I can cut the costs. I could cut them in half almost. Look at this. This is water, basically. I don't know if you can see it. This is water. It's so calm. I don't think I've ever seen such a large body of water being so calm, like so. Taking a video. What is this, Sasha?
This is sunset.
Can you walk on that wall?
So beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna walk.
Walk on that beautiful wall.
Amazing.
This will not be that great.
One more try. Ooh,
One more.
into the sunset. Abba. Good job, Theo.
Now, how about the comfort levels? Being comfortable, right? When I wanted to move in La Manga, I spent so many days, weeks, maybe months fantasizing about that place because for me it's so important, the house, the home, to be comfortable. I think because I love to make these online projects, write books, make documentaries, all kinds of projects that we have, and I want to have a comfortable place where I can work in quietness and like not be disturbed by the outside world, and to have my mind focused on these projects, not stress about the rest. Not I cannot live with many people in the same place, or like if it's like too much chaos around and so forth. So I was dreaming about like having this renting this apartment in La Manga and be like, just see the sea from the balcony and wake up, and like no one bothers me, and I can work on my stuff, and I can go for a walk around because it's a nice place, and maybe it's not too crowded because it's at the end of La Manga, and off season probably is no one there like it is on pretty much everywhere on coastline in Spain. So I want that comfort. Okay, for me that's important, very important. So how does it compare with the motorhome, for example? Before I was living in a motorhome, and I was seeing other people in motorhomes because in Spain is full of them. I don't know if I felt this fantasy about being comfortable in that motorhome when it is parked in like a fucking random parking place where there are cars around and people around, and I was like, that will suck. Like, just imagine you being in a parking lot, in a car. How can you have the comfort, the coziness, to like sleep and then relax and then work on stuff? But I'm so surprised by the fact that when I am here in this motorhome, many times it doesn't matter where I'm parked. It feels home. It feels kind of secluded and not too bad, actually. Not too bad. Of course, when you are in some very busy parking lots, it's not comfortable at all. But it's also that you can. Now I'm parked, for example, in a very nice and quiet place. It's just a grassy area. It's a motorhome parking. I have access to water for free if I want to. It's so relaxing. It's basically no one around, just one more motorhome. It's a big space. It's not even close to where I'm parked, so it's really nice. But I also lived for like a month or two in a parking lot in the season in Spain. It was insane. Everyone was so tightly packed around me. It was crazy. And from outside, I would have said that this is no way I can have any life inside of that car that parks. But inside, when I go inside and I close everything, kind of, yes, it's still noise, but I can still have this comfort and this like almost like fortress in the motorhome. And this is a great surprise for me, and I'm happy that this is the case because I was a bit worried. You see, I lived in other apartments too, and it was not like it was not noisy. One time when we lived very close to the street, and it was so noisy all the time, and cars passing by, and other times we had this really noisy neighbors with their dogs, and I remember I couldn't fucking focus on writing for some books because these motherfuckers like all the time. And so and when you have an apartment or you rent something, you can't move. It is what it is. You have a bad neighbor, you have a bad neighbor. Here, if I have a bad neighbor, and I had some bad neighbors the past days, I move. I just go somewhere else. That's the advantage. So what's more comfortable? Where do I feel more comfortable? Well, honestly, except for a few times when we parked in like uncomfortable places and kind of crowded, I feel super comfortable in the motorhome. In like the bed, is just feels like a home. Here it feels like home when I eat, when I sleep, when I go to the bathroom. It feels really comfortable, a lot more comfortable than I thought before moving into the motorhome. So in terms of what is comfortable, like with sleeping and focusing on stuff, and in both cases are advantages and disadvantages. That's all I can say. But at least with the motorhome, if you have bad neighbors or it's a bad area, you can move. In an apartment, you cannot move. Doesn't matter you rent it or you buy it. Bad place is the bad place there. Of course, with a motorhome, you also have to move constantly. I used to spend weeks, maybe months, sometimes working on a book or some video. And it was very helpful not to be interrupted while I was doing this, because it sucks when you have to like, okay, we don't have enough water, we have to move, or we stayed too long in this place, we have to move. So I'm still not adapted to that lifestyle in terms of being able to work again on important projects. I was not able for the past year to work on any more like creative important project. Let's see. I'll try to. It is bothering me a bit, to be honest. Yeah, to have to move all the time. Like I came here in this really nice place. For me, it will help to stay 2-3 weeks, but it's a bit extreme to do that in a motorhome place. Even if you have all of the resources, it's kind of they even say for on this motorhome park in these motorhome parkings, they say no more than 72 hours or something like that. So maybe eventually I could even rent some land somewhere and I can park if it's very cheap. So we'll see. But it's not that bad. How about the toilet? That's another thing that goes into the comfort level. Of course, when you are living like most normal people in a house or apartment, you don't think much about the toilet, right? You go to the toilet, you do the number one or the number two, press a button, all is gone. Here it's not like that. It's different, but it's not as bad as I thought. So, for example, number one, of course, here the most reasonable way is to have a pee bottle. You pee in the bottle, and then you take the bottle and empty it in these motorhome places where they have this sewage system. It's never a pleasant experience. I try to do it fast and like with the napkin, I pour it, and it smells kind of bad because people empty their cassette toilets there. Sometimes we empty it in nature because, well, it's just pee, right? I improved this comfort after I bought a 3-liter bottle, pee bottle, because before I had to empty it every day. I had the 1-liter bottle and I had to empty it every day, and it's kind of stressful to have to empty every single day. Now with this 3-liter bottle, I can empty every 3 days, and it's not bad at all. Well, with number two, um, we have this, let's call it dry toilet. Is a glorified bucket where you put a plastic bag, some moisture absorbent, and then you do your business. And after you do your business, you wrap that thing, the bin bag, and you throw it into a garbage bin. Of course, what if there is no garbage bin around? What if you have to use a toilet at night? Do you have to go at night or wherever it's a garbage bin to throw it? It's uncomfortable. What if it's raining outside? It's cold. It's wind. This is uncomfortable. It's not as bad, but of course it's not like at home. you don't think about you don't think about your poo when you are at home. You don't think about these things. Here you have to think and take care of it. But we also, if you cannot go to a trash bin nearby, you double or triple bag it, and you put it in the rubbish bin in the bathroom. You have a small one with a lid. There is no smell. Well, only when you open it to take it out the next day or whatever. But the home part of toilet, the toilet part of home, it's also not, for me at least, not the cleanest or the best. This one for me in the motorhome is much cleaner, than the toilet at home. I was always disgusted about toilets all of my life. Like every time I had to use a toilet, I had to take toilet paper and like wipe the toilet seat, lift it up, wipe the bowl, flush a few times probably, because I feel like toilets are really disgusting. Put toilet paper on the toilet seat before sitting on it, because I can't. And when I flush, it's not just to flush, sometimes you have to like also clean that bowl because it's not stain proof. And when you flush, is that water that spills all over. I saw this experiment made by scientists in the COVID era to show about the droplets, how they spread and stuff worked. And they were showing a toilet, and they filmed with this camera that could see the droplets. And you flush a toilet, it's like spreading everywhere. These particles from the toilet is like, it's disgusting. And it's nothing more disgusting in a home than that toilet brush. Doesn't matter what home. I feel like it's just the most disgusting fucking thing, the toilet brush, and the thing that you put the toilet brush into, like, ugh. So cleaning that toilet and dealing with that is like, to me, is disgusting. But here, the advantage is that you do your business in that bag, and everything is like a toilet basically. So you don't sit on a bucket, you sit on a thing that is a toilet. But you do your business there, and you take that bag. You don't have to observe anything that you don't want to observe. You just see some toilet paper basically on top, and you tie that bag and you throw it, and it's clean. and that's it. And it keeps it clean. It's to me it's much better. So I much prefer this toilet than the toilet at home. I'm much more comfortable with this one. The uncomfortable part comes with of course, disposing of your waste. Comfort levels, toilets, it's depends. Again, depends. Definitely much easier in a house, but for me it's kind of gross in the house. So a house is bigger, of course. You have more space, more rooms. uh, it feels different, of course, but our motorhome is, honestly, it's so, I feel, well designed inside. It feels like a small apartment. I really don't feel claustrophobic here. It's really tall and it's really wide, and the way that is designed is, to me, it feels like an apartment. I don't feel like I'm in a car. I never felt that. And everyone who comes in this motorhome says, wow, it really is like a small apartment. I didn't expect that. I was expecting to be in a car, but we are in a small apartment. So yeah, it's of course more advantageous an apartment or house versus a motorhome in terms of like inside space. In a motorhome can be a bit difficult sometimes for both me and Sasha to be together and try to work on stuff, because we try to do it in the same small space. And despite the house having a much bigger space inside, the outside is the same. With the motorhome, your outside can be amazing. Look at this.
Super nice.
Look at the view. Look, this is where we are parked. We stay here for the night. Oh my god. So we are here today. It's a very nice spot here. Nice place, and if you don't believe me,
See how nice it is.
look how nice it is from our window. You can put your chair out if you want, and you can eat out if you want, and your backyard is the world, like they say, and it's really true. Wow. This is our window, and from the window you can buying food, for example. If you have an apartment or a house, you have to take your car maybe, and you go someplace, a supermarket, and put the food in the car, and then come home. And sometimes you have to like take all of the bags on the stairs and then come home and put in the fridge. It's much easier with the motorhome. You park in the supermarket parking, and you put the stuff in the cart, of course, and you come with the cart at the motorhome door, and you put the stuff inside the fridge. Basically, it's so much easier. Just a small detail, but maybe it's interesting for people to know. In the motorhome, you don't have bills, and that's nice. I mean, electricity is from the sun, or when we drive. We have to change gas tanks from time to time, but it's not too bad. We go to the motorhome at the gas station, we exchange it, and that's it. In a motorhome, resources are also limited sometimes. Like at home, in an apartment or a house, you don't think much about the water. You just take a shower and flush the toilet, and then wash your hands and whatever. Here, you always have to think about the water. You get used to it, but it's a limitation. Sometimes I also worry about the battery situation, because maybe we don't get enough sunny days, so we have not enough power in the batteries, and we may have to drive just to charge the batteries. So this is something you don't worry at home. On the other hand, at home sometimes you have all kinds of like you depend on the power grid. If it's a power outage, then that's it. It's nothing you can do about. Here there is no power outage. We were here in this really nice place, and then we woke up in the morning, and I see that we have no service on our phones, and I thought maybe it's just with our phones, and because it's this region in between the mountains. Even though Sasha went on the top of the mountain the other day, and she had like very good signal, very good service there. And then my mother is calling me. It's like, do you know what happened? Because like no one in Spain has like phone service and electricity and all of that. And like, fuck, I don't fucking know, And then I go on Euronews, the website, and it seems like Spain, Portugal, and parts of France were hit by a massive power outage. And it's huge, like Spain's electricity demands dropped by 50% at one point in the day today. And So lots of things are not working, like electricity, and because of electricity, you don't have phone signal, don't have internet. In today's world, you're like, what the fuck are we doing? But you see, why I'm saying this with a smile on my face is that it's so cool to be off grid because we have power from the sun that even powers our fridge. We have internet that is through satellites. So for us, it's like we have no idea if the end of the world is coming. We are still surviving as long as there is some sun, and maybe there are a lot of sheep around and goats. Maybe more goats, and we can catch some and eat. Isn't that amazing? Or some problems with the water. A bunch of times when we lived in a house or apartment, we had to deal with this kind of things. Like suddenly today we have no water. Like what the fuck? Like now the toilet is not working. Now you have no water, not even to brush your teeth or whatever. What do you do? I have no idea. Wait for others to fix it. Here we don't have that problem. So advantages and disadvantages. So yeah, an apartment or a house are also prone to flooding, or it depends where it's positioned. Imagine you buy an apartment in La Manga there on that really thin strip of land. Well, what happens in several years' time because of climate change and all kinds of the flooding and this kind of problems? Like, what do you do? Like, you may lose that apartment. Maybe you will not lose the apartment, but you'll have to deal with a lot of issues. And speaking of that, think about it. A motorhome. We bought a motorhome here in Spain, but no one is forcing us to live in Spain, right? We can go and live in Portugal, in France. We can go live in Norway. We can go live in whatever country in Europe, basically. What stops us? This is the biggest advantage, by far the biggest advantage with living in a motorhome. Even if you want to put aside the costs and so forth, the fact that it gives you this opportunity to move to wherever place, then that is something that you will never have in an apartment or a house that you rent or buy. I've seen more amazing places for the past year than I've seen all of my life. So, of course, comfort is subjective, and it's hard for me to say anything in general about it. It's from my perspective. I would say that there are advantages and disadvantages. I cannot say that it's more comfortable to live in a motorhome than an apartment or a house. It depends. It depends. I lived both ways so far, and both have good parts and bad parts. But I'm extremely happy in general with the motorhome, and it feels like home, and it's super cheap to live in this way, and it allows me to, do other things too. Because I lived in an apartment. When I wanted to move to La Manga, I didn't move to La Manga, but I moved to another apartment in Estartit in the same town. And I remember I was so happy in the beginning, like, yeah, finally I can focus on my projects and this and that. But then I realized that that's all I do every day for weeks and weeks and months. I wake up and work on the projects and go to sleep, wake up, work on the projects, go to sleep. At least now I'm forced to go somewhere and I see new places, and I feel like I'm living a longer life because of that. So in a way, maybe it's good that I'm forced to be on the move. So this video is about comparing life in a motorhome versus owning versus renting something, like an apartment or a house. And in conclusion, in terms of costs, the most reasonable and cheap overall is to live in a motorhome, in my view, because it is a big initial cost, but it's not as crazy as buying an apartment. And then the monthly costs are very minimal for this world. And in terms of lifestyle and comfort and so forth, I still think the motorhome is a great choice because it's comfortable inside, and then you have options, choices. You can move to places where you can be more comfortable. If you are not comfortable in some place, you just move. And it's not that difficult, especially in Spain. We use the Park for Night app, and we can find so many free places where we can move with a motorhome. So yeah, in conclusion, I think this lifestyle in a motorhome is probably the best that I could choose financially and in general in terms of like lifestyle.
Two. Getting ready to go on the steepest bridge he's ever been on. The tortuga. Oh shit. Oh. Fuck, that doesn't look good. Oh my god. Okay, he did it. But going down now. Oh. It's a good place. You can go down. Good job, Tortilla. This is the end of La Manga.